Welcome to another build day of my CNC, hopefully to be controlled by an Arduino Uno. I've got a cuppa. Let's have a little look around the project to date and talk about today's progress and findings. If you've been following the series, you'll know that this particular project is evolving each day of the build. The tasks today were to improve the Z-axis, make a mount for the router, and generally have a look around the nearly completed machine and see what improvements need to be done before I take that first cut. With a lot of my projects, they're never finished. They're always evolving. They're just at different stages of their life. The initial objective was to use a Dremel as the router bit. This has now been superseded by a more conventional size router, and that's what we're looking at the moment. The two mounts on the Z-axis for the router. The Z-axis has been subject to quite a lot of work and developments and a few substantial issues. At present I'm waiting for a replacement 16mm ball screw for the Z-axis. The Z-axis is just a repeat of the X and the Y-axis. It's a 16mm central ball screw, two 16mm rails with carriages that have ball bearings inside them for stability. So let's fit the router to the Z-axis and look further into today's progress. A simple process to fit the router. On any day that I use it for routing, I will make sure that the router bit is as square as I can get it. Although the Z-axis is faulty, I can show roughly that's it touching the table. Y-axis, the table's not secure today. We can soon sort that out. That's going to bring it backwards and forwards on the ball screw. The x-axis, very capable of supporting the weight of the router, nice and smooth. You notice I stop it at this point. And that's because this is the working envelope we have with this setup. In other words, we could machine anywhere within that white rectangle. This was the size I was aiming for, and that's the size I've ended up with. You may wonder how that can happen. Well, I've never designed a CNC before. I designed this particular 3-axis model based around the ball screws that were available. The 300mm ball screws readily available seem to give a working envelope of around 10 inches square. In practice, on assembly, this CNC machine has limits of 8.5 by 4 3/4, so not quite the 10 by 10 I wanted, but still a nice working environment size, I believe. The limitations of the design as I see it today are that the uprights are too far this way and the table could well be repositioned so that this working envelope is more central on the base chassis. I'd like to see it roughly like that, so that the tool isn't working near the edges. And the way I'll do that, apart from repositioning the table, is to move the uprights to the rear of the bottom chassis, and that'll position the tool further that way. It's the same working envelope no matter where I position the uprights or the table. That's the limits of this machine forever. Would I do anything different if I was redesigning it from today? Maybe longer rails on the y-axis, maybe, but again, if I'm constrained by the 300mm ball screw, then there's no point in having much longer Y rails or any other rails. Let's give the Let's give the router a quick buzz up and we'll see what we've got in store for us. You notice I've zip tied the dead man's handle and trusty elastic bands holding the trigger in. So all controls for the on-off switch for the router is now the wall socket. The speed control is still within this left handle, but the right handle controls are irrelevant. Here we go. I'll fire it up for a couple of seconds just to give you a feel for the power this has got. It works between 10 and 30,000 revs per minute, so ample enough to do what I want to do. Here we go. I won't leave it running long. So that's a taster of what lies ahead. We'll have a quick look around at the Z-axis from a different angle. Zooming in. So that concludes today's build day. Lots to do on the development side. Thanks for joining me.